everyone, and welcome to Sound Out. I'm your host, Jesse Hubbard. And today I've got a very special guest, someone that I've been a big fan of for the last decade of my life. And I say it, with all authenticity, quite possibly the greatest songwriter on the planet today. And we're going to talk more about that. But welcome to the show, Cory Branan. How are you, my friend?
I'm all right, thanks, man. I might need you to call my mother in a little while and repeat what you just said.
We'll send her the episode when it's all up and running.
I appreciate the hyperbole. Thank you.
Sure. But so let's get right to it, shall we? I saw recently on your socials that your latest album, "When I Go, I Ghost," is celebrated, as you call it, its half birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great album. That's a great album, and
Appreciate that. Thank you.
yeah, brother. So I got some questions about that. I want to start with um, the name of the album itself. Where did that come from, and what does that mean to you?
Yeah, on one level, it works as the Irish goodbye on one level. Just it's as simple as that. But yeah, no, I mean the whole record was, when I'm writing these songs, I don't think about the other songs. I just think about the one song and making it the most that song that it can be. And so then later when I start thinking about records, I look at all the songs I have and the stacks, and then I sort of see which ones feel kindred. And I noticed that this batch that I was leaning towards had a sort of a stay or go restlessness to it. And so yeah, it cropped up a lot. There's a lot of the characters are on the precipice of a decision, and so yeah, they just sort of seem to work for me on different levels.
So did you have any particular influences coming into the album? It sounds like each song, as you said, is kind of its own thing. Did you bring anything with you recording this, or is it, um, more of a personal, autobiographical situation? Where are we going with that?
Yeah, I don't write a lot of, you know, autobiographical. Like I don't write a lot of confessional stuff. Let's put it like that. I mean,
Gotcha. Okay.
obviously, all the characters are me. That's just how things work. It's like in a dream.
Yeah.
You're chasing yourself. That's who's chasing you in that dream. It's like it's all just, this your brain trying to make sense of all this, sensory data it has, but it can only process your brain with its brain, and I can only understand characters with my own, uh, what I'm equipped to understand with. And so when I write these characters, is different as they may seem, they are all me at the root, or my understanding of other people. And so usually the closer to the bone a thing is, the more I will recast it and distance it in the story. Because I just don't find, um, I don't find confessional pain cathartic. I don't find songs that point inward. Um, they don't interest me. I want these things to be able to be taken and used by people. And so I like them to be outward facing songs. That might be a little too abstract. Uh,
No, I think I understand exactly what you're talking about. I mean, I think all of us on the other end of these recordings, listening to them, we assign our meanings to them, right?
yeah,
As the fans, and so you're using your, it's the cliched thing to say, but you're using your poetry to try to, like, relate to other people's problems, or have their problems relate to what their friends are going through, and so on and so forth. And I
yeah.
think
You just
that's
want it
really,
to, want it to resonate
yeah.
um, instead of just be a diary. I don't interest myself that much, and I don't think I have any. I said this before, but I don't think I have any particular wisdom to impart. I don't sit down to write songs and be like, oh, yeah, I've got this thing I want to say, and
Yeah.
I know this answer, and I want to pass this answer. Yeah, I don't. All my everything in my songs, it's all qualified. There are no answers in anything. It's just interesting angles on old questions, and sometimes the songs have a little dialectic with themselves. They almost argue with themselves. Because I just find that that's how I write. I just do the writing. I'm interested in the following it and seeing what happens, and then I'll get to a place and I'll be like, oh well, that's true. I find that to be true, And then I let that argue with itself sometimes, or I'll set it in a. I'm like, okay, here's a lovely jewel. I'm like, let me figure out what I'm going to set this in silver, or I'm going to set it. I'm not going to have like jewel, 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 jewel. I'm not going to be blinged out. I'm like, how do I set this one thing that I think will is a resonant truth? I'm like, how can I make that thing resonate? How can I set it up? And sometimes that's how a whole structure of a song will come up. It's just for me trying to get this one thing to ring when it hits. Yeah. Anyway.
Are you always writing, or do you
Uh,
set certain periods, of your life aside for that?
no, I definitely don't do anything disciplined. Um, yeah, yeah. There's no deciding things. Um, I'm always trying to take note. I try to remind myself. Especially, I started doing it on the road right before COVID. I had never written on the road before, and that's one thing I sort of systematically changed, because I drive myself around. I tour solo most of the time, and it's just driving all around the country. It's like America's kind of spread out when you're touring the states, and so some of the drives are long, and it just takes this low grade attention to not drive into a ditch. That's not I never found conducive to writing, but I realize if I get up in the morning before I turn that key, if I start sort of free associating, and I start really looking at the specific Motel 6 room that I slept in last night, because we all know what the Motel 6 looks like, but you don't know what that one looks like if you're not looking. And so I'm like, I'll make
Subtleties,
it.
subtleties.
Yeah, yeah. I'll make sure I start looking at things, and I make sure I make a few connections. I'm like, this reminds me of this, or this is evocative of this, and I'll make a couple of those connections. And once I can sort of jumpstart that thing, my brain will start making the connections, and I'll have a writing day. And a lot of times it's just collecting shit, and it goes in the notebook. It's just small observations. Sometimes it's just sounds of things I like, and or a specific type of a phrase, the rhythm of a certain phrase that I like, and then I'll write 20 of those phrases. That's just for something to do passing the road. It might as well be like, I spy something you don't see, in the screen. And it's like a game sometimes, and I have fun with that stuff. And sometimes it's generative. Sometimes it'll at least give me prompts for later, when I
Sure.
am sort of
Yeah.
feeling it. But no, I don't always write. There are long gaps. I used to sweat them at first. I was like, oh, can I still do this when I haven't written for 6 months? And now I'm just like, whatever, I know, because I'll have like, I didn't write anything during COVID, but I wrote 50 something songs the year before, had a
Yeah.
little run. And so I'm just like, I let my brain just like do what it wants to do. Like right now, trying to learn all the uh, I'm learning piano, like real piano. I'm like trying to learn. I'm taking some gospel lessons, trying to learn how to reharmonize in real time. How the gospel guys will, they can play Amazing Grace before they go Amazing Grace. They will have hit 4 chords going up to that grace, harmonizing on their way up to that chord. It's like a chess game because they're like, I'm going here. Let's go way around to get to it. I'm like, man, I gotta learn how to do that.
Yeah.
So that's
Add,
what that's where
add a little
that's where
extra
my brain
something there.
is. That's where my brain is right now. So I find it's all interconnected, and it all informs the stuff. During COVID, for instance, to keep food in the fridge, I started recording direct albums to fans of covers they requested. I put out like 5 albums of covers that are not in the
Yeah,
music.
I saw that. That was awesome.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun for me. I just got a little. I did that thing that I'd been putting off for years. I learned how to record. I've always been in the studio and deferring to the engineer and knowing I'm obsessive. And if I find out what one knob does, I want to know what they all do. And so I never let myself do it. And then I had time, so I was like, oh shit. And I went into it, got obsessive about that, and then learned enough to where I could, if I couldn't play it, I could program it, the drums and things, and put out like 5 records that aren't on Spotify, and they're only available direct or whatever. But but again, and that's the thing, I wasn't writing because I was using this other, I was using my synapses trying to make some new connections or whatever. But then when I got in to do this last record, I found that it really helped. Even if just on the base level of being able to speak frequencies with the engineer instead of being like the musician adjectives, like I need this a little crispier, or a little more, you know.
And they're just like, yeah, okay, okay.
But arrangement wise, even like some of the stuff was no brainer. Like when I'm recovering a replacement song somebody requested, or Springsteen, I'm like, that's my wheelhouse. But some people like requested Peaches, Fuck the Pain Away. So I'm like, I'm programming the drums and the synth and all this stuff, and I'm like, yeah. So a lot of that arranging those things is like, oh, okay, this is new. This is new. Yeah, it was fun to sort of start thinking about. Anyway, this record, and it's largely to do with Jeremy Ferguson, who engineered it and produced it. Us just being, it, we were on the same page, and so it is largely to do with him. But I think the that sort of experience I had with recording all those things and arranging all the things, it made it a lot smoother. I don't know if we would have been able to pass ideas so fluidly back and forth if I hadn't given myself a little bit of a foundation with some of the technical stuff.
I think it's really cool that while obviously COVID affected everybody in some way or another, and there were some people that couldn't do anything,
Yeah, some
and that was
people that
okay.
aren't here anymore. Yeah,
Yeah, like, and it's, and there's some people that aren't here anymore, and that's it affected everybody,
yeah,
to the worst level, to you know mundane things that we took for granted, right? So for you to, maybe you didn't write new music during that time, but like you really kind of sounds like you dove in, and like you did the whole covers project and really kind of gained a new or a further level of a skill set, when it comes to the recording process, that kind of.
yeah. I mean, at least it's a new entrance into the building. It's at least a new way I can get into the heart of what I do. It's like just a new angle to hit things at. I mean, that's all things are. Even down to writing. Again, there are no new stories really to be told, but they're always they always need some freshening up. They're always the way that nobody's ever seen the world, like you or I or any other person has seen it. And then in 15 years from now, somebody else is going to see the world a completely different way. So, but they're going to be telling the same stories. It's yeah. And so for me, I have to find fresh angles to approach, uh, to get myself back to why I do this. Doing it as a career will kill it. It'll kill your love for music. Everything um, on either side of the set time is just bullshit pain in the ass on the road. But playing shows is always, it's always a pleasure. It's the best thing in the world. And writing songs is, pure unadulterated pleasure for me. Uh, Dealing with labels, or just any of that stuff, marketing, having to promote a record, just garbage. It's the anti, and it's just, you just have to suck it up and be like, well, I'm not hanging sheetrock, you know. And so
Right.
it's like I can
Yeah.
suck it up. I'm
Perspective,
not gonna
right?
suck it
Yeah.
up for me personally. I draw the line at like TikTok and stuff, But I'm not gonna feed that beast. It's like a race to the bottom of the least attention span. I'm not gonna feed that. But I'm like, I have one. If the label wants to put some stuff on there, they're welcome to do it. I'm not above it. I got to work. However the thing changes is fine with me. But I'm not gonna. That's an aspect where I'm like, I already give enough of my life. I can't, if I start doing that, where you start being basically your own 24/7 promoter, your self mark brand thing, you're creating a business sort of. I I don't know. That's not for me.
It's
You know.
it's exhausting, and like, where's the line? Where do you draw the line? You
Yeah, and
know?
and for me personally, I just feel like an asshat. Like if I'm just, you know, look at me, look at me, look at me. And I'm like, it's like I'm already on stage saying, "Look at me" when I come to your town.
Right.
That's plenty. An hour, just an hour is all I need. 3 times a year in your town, tops.
Yeah.
um,
It's interesting
but
to hear you say that, because that's something that I have my various projects, like my book that you were a part of, Punk Rock and Cocktails, and
that's
the
fun.
podcast and things like that I do, and I want people to know about what I do, but I don't want to bug them, and I don't want to be annoying. So with my social media channels, I always struggle with that, obviously at a smaller level than what you do, but I still struggle with it nonetheless. And how do I get your attention without making you sick of me?
Yeah,
You know what I'm
and
saying?
yeah, and then you throw in the other variables like how do I even know that this is getting to you? Because it's like if you don't pay for say an Instagram thing, I think like 10% of your followers see it. It's
I know.
the algorithms are ever evolving. They'll have an interesting thing enough to where they can gather the people in, and then they'll start monetizing it and favoring anything that's paying money to them. And so it's a business. It's all just an information gathering business, which is why I'm always telling people that are starting out and doing their own thing. I'm like, it's funny that it's old school now, but it's just get the email list. Cut out the middleman and just deal with them direct. And I'm bad at, and people don't want to fill out emails either. But I'm just like, look, I'm not gonna bother you. I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna tell you about my 4 or 5 long tours, the year, and they'll be in things. I'm not gonna tell you every time I'm popping up and playing a local show around here or something, you know. So yeah, I just, I'm like the respect I have for your time should be apparent in my songs. I'm like, I'm not wasting your time in my songs, you know. Even with my, I'm like, even with my guitar playing, I'm like, listen to how long the solos are on any of the songs. It's like if there's a solo that's more than 8 bars, it's because Jason Isbell's guesting on the record. It's like if I'm playing that guitar, it's a Tom Petty thing, man. You're gonna have a couple riffs, and we're gonna be done. It's like, but anyway, yeah, I'm a big fan of the tight songs, and I like to not waste people's time.
It's funny you say
Because
that about
I get
the email list too, because it has kind of come back to that. And I'll do you one better. I find myself when I'm doing events around town here in Columbus, Ohio, or when I go back home to Jersey, I'll flyer again. I'll start going around and fly. You know what I mean? I hadn't done that forever. And
yeah,
and I find, even if one or two people see it, that's another avenue. And it's all kind of
yeah.
coming back to that for me at least.
Because you can flyer in specific places if you know where your people are. You
Yeah.
know, um, even the local rag. We got the Memphis Flyer or whatever, and that's the place where people will check and see oh, what's going on this weekend or whatever. Let's see what's happening music wise. Even that has been so. The local rags have gotten so hit or miss, and that used to be the thing that I always focused when I look at the label. I'm like, yeah, this is great if you're going to hire out for press or whatever, but I need someone that is going to work to a press. I just need to be in the local rag. People just need to fucking know when I'm coming.
Yeah.
I got I got the bands in town and stuff for the people that know. But people that are just sort of looking what to do on a Friday, I'm like, that's where you focus your energy on that sort of thing. But even that's gotten sort of pixelated into dust. Yeah, it's weird out there.
to
Yeah,
say to say the least. Yeah. Um, so we touched on a couple things actually. I want to come back to. You mentioned Springsteen. You talking about Jason Isbell, and uh, the first song I think that I heard, probably a lot of us heard off your newest album, is "When in Rome, When in Memphis," right?
mm-hmm.
And being from Jersey myself, I especially love the shout out to Asbury Park. I
Yeah,
thought, Bruce Springsteen is my musical hero. From that area, I spent a lot of time there over the years. And so I know Brian Fallon is also on that song. I'm curious, do you have a connection with Asbury Park, or is that more of a nod to Brian being on the song, obviously from Jersey himself?
no, I wrote the song and then asking to be on it. I was actually just driving through. Again, driving that year, writing and driving.
There you go.
I just was. I had the well, the I'm not sure where the idea exactly came from. Again, I'm just write these things, but I do know where the idea of what towns came from. I mean, I was literally in Asbury Park, but the idea of it had to be loaded towns if I'm going to say when in Rome. I'm like, and so for me, I know a lot of people from Jersey, and they're sort of um, fascination about the mythos of Memphis and the South and things like that. I don't have that because I grew up with it. It's kind of in my blood. I'm fascinated by Jersey. I mean, like that's sort of. But they're both towns that specifically Asbury Park, obviously, and Memphis. They come loaded. They're very loaded towns. You say those words and it's clicking things already. But the gist of the song, I like the character that's talking about he's fine anywhere, and it's like because he's traveling anywhere. It's just like once it gets dark, it's like this shit's all the same. He's like, the whole time he's saying stuff that I mean, it works on a bang, it's just bobbing your head level. But if anybody ever listens a little bit deeper or whatever, he's telling himself stuff that's not true exactly. He's like, I'm fine, without her. But he's never home. He's never quite home, and then when he's home, he's never quite there. It's this sort of thing, and he's like, I'm fine without her, but he's dragging her memory around everywhere, and so this sort of thing, anywhere he goes, he's trying to tell himself stuff that he might not believe fully, and so I like that, and then I like the juxtaposition of Rome and then loaded cultural places from the States. And the best line about that is and it sort of resonated with me as I was writing. This was a Guy Clark line. And oh shit, what is that song? Anyway, but he's like, I've seen the Mona Lisa. I've seen the David too. He's like, but I've seen Doc Watson play Columbus Stockade Blues. And it's like, he's likening the genius of Doc Watson to the genius of Michelangelo. So I'm like, you know what? I would have, probably given my right arm to see Doc Watson play Columbus Stockade. But I'm just like, yeah, that's a piece of culture that you can take pride in. So I like the juxtaposition of that. Anyway, sorry, and this is the tangent, the rabbits that I'm going chasing here. Just
hey man, this is why I do this. I love to just
yeah,
just
but
let
it's
it roll.
also how I write. The writing itself is just trying to corner all these goddamn rabbits,
Yeah.
rabbits.
So, I think just by that song as an example alone, with you, Jason, and Brian, I think I personally have a hard time, and I don't really like doing this anyway, but like categorizing your music under one specific genre. You know what I mean?
That's by design for me. Yeah.
There you go.
I try to buck that shit off at every chance.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, why try to box it in? But something that I think is really cool, like I grew up in the punk scene. I'm heavily into punk rock still. It's a big part of my life. And you and your music are so embraced by the punk scene.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened.
I was going to ask you, like, if you know why that is or where that started, but you're very much in that.
Yeah, there's a couple of sort of scenes that, I mean, and then like the emo thing too. Like I ended up with like all these friends in the sort of emo scene, and like Caraba took me out, and like
Yeah.
And yeah, there's sort of these weird things. I know the punk stuff. I imagine it's something to do probably with Lucero being from here at the same time, because Lucero is like the Kevin Bacon of the musical world. And through them I met John Snodgrass, and through Snodgrass I met Chuck Reagan, and Chuck takes me on those revival tours, and I become friends with Laura Jane and all that stuff. I don't know. I think I've just been lucky enough to where everyone that I've met in that sort of world has just been like just really decent human beings, and I just like them from a human level, and so I've just gotten along with folks over the years. And but yeah, my stuff is not going to work if I'm out with a very specific like Orange County band or something, and it's very aesthetic driven like that. But for me, there's I've always said there's very little difference between the Clash and Johnny Cash. They're trying to get to the thing with the least amount of bullshit. And it's just they're taking their own sort of way there, but there's a directness to it. So there are parallels, I think, between intent with the music. In a way, it's a type of folk music to where the songs are supposed to be functional. They're not supposed to be candy. They're supposed to be useful. And so I find that might be a bit of a glue across,
That makes sense. Yeah, revival tour. I wish Chuck would bring that back. Man, that would be
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. That well, that's when you think about that. Nobody wants to think about it, but the logistics of
I know there's a lot.
taking that many artists out on the road and treating them well, like Chuck did,
Yeah,
it's difficult.
it's
And then
probably
people,
yeah.
and it's a very foreign thing to people. The review format. It's not something people are used to because I don't know if you know how the revival tour is structured. If you ever saw him, but he would have Joe and oh, my brain's not working.
I mean, everybody was on there, like Frank Turner and
Mhm.
Brian and
Oh,
Dan
but
from
yeah, but
Alkaline.
Chuck's
And
guys would back them up.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, on fiddle. God, I am so anyway. Our brains are not up yet, but then everybody that plays would come out and do a 20-minute set individually. We open up all together, and then we break up into 20-minute individual sets, and then we close all together in a set. And people would all the time, just be like, "When is what time is Brian Fallon set, or what time is this?" And it's like, no, that's not what the thing is. The people would come just to see one person sometimes, and they be like, "What is this?" Group thing, and then a 20-minute set. This it's like, but yeah, but you're getting 3 hours of music, and it was like this thing where it was a cumulative power of seeing all these different artists. And then, for me, I don't mind. There's a people have an attention span, even if they're grown ass people like me. The attention span does cut off after a bit if listening to music that you don't know. That's why I always tell people that are going out, I'm like, if you're opening a tour and you're playing for a crowd where the majority of them don't know your music, and the headliner is giving you the choice, to play a longer set, I'm like, take the shorter set. You can do more damage with a 30-minute set and leave people um, with an impression than playing those extra, 15 minutes, playing those extra 3 or 4 songs. There's a lull of people's attention span. I don't care who you are. It could be Richard Thompson up there, or it could be like Joni Mitchell or whatever. And after 30 minutes, if you don't know the music, your brain's going to start to fuzz out, and it's like so. Anyway,
No,
but
I hadn't really thought about that, but you're absolutely right. I mean, I'm guilty of that myself, and I love seeing every band. You know what I mean? But especially if you're really excited for the headliner, you're like, all right, this is good, but I'm here to see so and so.
yeah, but I find that if you're going to have multiple people, if you're going to have a few openers, which is a bit of tedium, but as long as they're doing like 20, 25-minute sets, it's like bam, bam, it's like it's refreshing. It's like a couple palate cleansers on the thing, and so Chuck's thing was great, because people that hadn't heard before of the artists, even though there was a lot of crossover, with the people they bring out. I thought it was a great thing. It's like that old school review type thing. I was like, man, I've never got to do a review. That's what
Yeah.
the old rock and roll thing where it's like the one label's backup band would back up. Here we got the Shangri-Las, and here it's like all these people would come out with the backup band, and most people's experience with that is watching that thing you do. It's like, oh,
Yeah,
that's the
right.
review. They did that in the Tom Hanks movie.
The Oneaters.
Yeah, yeah, which is a fantastic film.
Yeah, absolutely. No, but what it also kind of reminded me of was um this might seem out there, but like the Warp Tour, 30-minute sets, boom, 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 boom,
Yeah, yeah,
boom, and like not in the layout of it, but in the sense that you're getting fast, sets banged out and just like really kind of changing it up a lot, which I thought was kind of
yeah.
cool.
I've never gone to any of those, but I've seen festivals where those are organized, and you can get away with those kind of things when you have kids, because they're going to come out and yeah, that was the one cool thing I thought about the Warped Tour was you don't know the structure. A lot of times they wouldn't advertise what's on it. What it's like, show up this early and just see how it's going to go
Yeah,
down. And I always thought that was pretty cool. But you have to have a special breed of fan. I did
yeah.
the Country Throwdown tour, which was the Warp Tour people when they try to do like a fucking cooter like country tour, and I was doing like the Bluebird in Nashville. They had the Bluebird sort of tent of songwriters, basically a freak tent. They'd have on the big stages. They would have Jamie Johnson and whoever else, uh, uh, Montgomery Gentry, all that kind of stuff. But but
Yeah.
immediately they recognized that this tour wasn't going to work. And I was like, I could have fucking told you that. And they had it booked, for months, Monday through Friday, like Monday through Sunday, like tour. I'm like, these people work, This is a blue collar tour. I'm like, this is not the Warped Tour, guys. These people are not going to line up. You got them Friday night, maybe. You got them all Saturday and Saturday night and Sunday at the church, maybe. I'm just like, so they were scrambling, having to cancel these places, and do like USO shit. I mean, we were playing in fucking army barracks and shit, and then we had like way too many days off. But then sometimes we play, and we played in Philly. It was 32,000 people. It was insane. Um, but yeah, I think that only went like 3 years, and it was Willie Nelson's country throwdown, and then even Willie couldn't save it. I'm just like, you can't do a country Warped Tour.
Yeah. If Willie can't save it, I don't think it can be saved.
Yeah, people got to go work, man.
Yeah, try.
You got to pick your weekends if you're gonna do a big production thing.
Ain't that the truth? I wanted to ask you, what are some of the bands that you're into right now, or musicians that you're into like right now in your life?
Oh man, I'm so bad about this question. I don't.
It's probably the one that everybody wants to know too.
Yeah. Honestly, the only way I know new music if my kiddo doesn't turn me on to it or whatever. If I tour or play shows with people, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll trade you some CDs and I can listen to the CD in my van or something. When I listen to music, honestly, the bulk of it is, instrumental piano jazz. I'll put on Bill Evans or Bud Powell, or I'll play some classical music or some ambient stuff. I don't listen to a lot of songwriters. And I think I do. Sometimes I'll get on a tear, and I'll go through and see, oh, what's going on, this year, like who's doing something interesting. But usually, if it's not my friends' music or people that I've met along the road, I just can't dig, anymore. It's spread out in such a thin layer. I didn't even know where to start sometimes.
TikTok, probably,
also,
right?
Yeah. Start on TikTok. Whoever's, oh, that's a nice dance. Let me see what they're dancing to. But for me personally, I think it's because I listen analytically, and it's annoying for myself. Like I always listen, like any song, like I wrote it, and I'm like, oh, okay, why did I do this? I'm like, oh, I dropped the ball there, and so, but I'm always like breaking them down and tearing them apart and be like, okay, and I'll think about the person, or that wrote it or whatever. I'm like, how do they relate to this? Is there any distance here? I'm always just sort of like breaking it down. Even I watch TV like that. I'm just like, okay, how are they going to introduce me to this character? Like, do I care about this person? Like, how did they get me in this story? If I'm ever affected by a story, which is rarer and rarer, because it's hard to be surprised when you know how the things work or how the sausage is made.
Yeah.
But when something interests me, like I'm like that, I'm like, okay, well, how do they do that? And so I'm like, I'll reverse engineer these things, and it's fucking annoying. It's exhausting. So it's I can.
You're like, I just want to enjoy things.
And when I want to enjoy things, it has to be. I like things that are great accidentally, like 80s horror movies, like things, stuff that's so bad it's amazing, that kind of thing. I enjoy that. And so,
You're into horror?
Oh yeah.
Have you? What do you think? I don't know even know if it's out yet, but the new Evil Dead.
Oh, I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen it.
It looks so good.
Yeah, I'm not gonna raise my expectations too much, but yeah.
Fair enough.
But there has been a little bit of return to some of the. I didn't love those things that they did on the Netflix or whatever, the ones that were the 3 years names or whatever. But it was they did have a lot of practical effects in them, and I grew up, with subscription to Fangoria magazine and stuff.
Oh yeah,
pre CGI stuff, and so I've been noticing they've been going back to practical effects. I was a big fan of that stuff.
Same.
Your brain knows when it's pixels. So I've been enjoying the sort of the return to that. There have been a few, good ones here and there. I don't know. Yeah, I like B films, and then musically though, I can listen to anytime. I can listen to the stuff that I grew up on. I can listen to gospel stuff, and I can listen to any blues stuff. But also, I had the luxury of growing up. I was born in the '70s, but I was a sentient being in the '80s, and absorbing everything as MTV came out and stuff. And I grew up when the charts were amazing, and the radio stations were amazing because everybody was making money, so they would pump everything through. And on the same top 100, you would hear the Cars and Tina Turner. They had some of the
Yeah.
old guard like that, but it was also like fucking ZZ Top and Catch a Goo Goo and fucking, like all this. It's just all over the fucking place, and nothing sounded like the other thing because everybody was making money, and the labels were just like, let's put all this out there, and it's like it's the same station that's playing Petty is playing right after that Supersonic. It's like, and it was just out of the same fucking radio station. So I was lucky enough to be come across in a pop era that was uh, gloriously not fractured, but it just psychotically different all over it was just all over the place, and it came through the same pipeline. It came through MTV, or it came through your radio station. It came through your pop radio station, and even stuff before that. Even I think there was this thing. 70s. You had the subversive. A lot of that stuff out there, but you sort of had to dig. There wasn't a pipeline. And it's something about that specific time. I think MTV really sort of changed things. The MTV that I remember,
Yeah,
pre
it's a little
real
different
world.
now. I mean, I
Um,
think we're about the same age, so I know exactly what you're talking about. And the '80s were so unique in that. I mean,
yeah,
because it was all together. Now, like we were talking earlier about genres, everything is like you put on pop radio, you hear a certain thing. You put on classic rock, you hear a certain thing, and
yeah,
it was kind of a magical time that I took for
it
granted as
really
a
was.
child.
I mean, it really was. And I don't. And sometimes I'm like, okay, am I just that? Get off my lawn, kids. Am I just that guy? And I'm like, no, because I can listen to there's modern pop and stuff like that. I'm just a fan of pop because
Yeah.
because you have to have these tight song structures, and those always fascinate me. The way songs actually work fascinates me. The way we love repetition, and but how much repetition we could take before it has to change. Um, I just got a subscription to the whatever the British Masterclass, but just because Mark Ronson's got a course on there, I want to hear that guy talk.
Yeah.
I'm really fascinated by those kind of pop writers and things like that, and you know, uh, sonic choices and stuff like that. That interests me. But yeah, I don't know. Sorry, I'm tasting another tangent, but I don't. It's really splintered, and it's just because nobody's making any money. That's all it is. Even the majors, they're not. They got to put all their eggs in one basket, and if they want to do that push. And I was thinking that there would be a backlash or a sea change to where you would have more artists like Billie Eilish, who are uh, singular, idiosyncratic artists that almost bypass the system, in a certain way. Because, like, she bypassed any aesthetic sort of thing, and her music's interesting.
Hmm.
It's sonically, it's interesting,
Yeah.
and I was thinking there would be more idiosyncratic things coming now that that music is on paper more democratic. I have in this Apollo in my computer. I have the London Philharmonic in my computer. I can do the MIDI and any note that they've ever played on any instrument at any attack they have. I have it all recorded in there and sampled, and it's like the tech is insane. It's insane where the tech is, and so with an investment of time of a couple of years and creativity, you can. It's almost limitless what you can do outside of the expensive studio system. And I was thinking that more, and that's what she did, her and her brother.
Yeah, her
I was
brother is
thinking,
really really talented too.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy. Yeah, and I was thinking that that would be an open avenue, and for a while it was in hip hop, but in but even that's gotten to where the commercial clamps have come down on that a lot. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I just I got enough music to listen to for the rest of my life.
Ain't that the
I
truth?
mean, I'm
Yeah.
just happy to learn how things work, and learning new ways to approach songwriting. And as long as I can, I went down the synth rabbit hole. Um, that was a fun year. Um, as long
Yeah,
as I can find things to
yeah,
keep me interested
yeah.
in music, keep me sort
Speaking
of
of the
going back.
'80s, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
That's the thing. Yeah, I got the Prophet 6 up here. Yeah.
I love it. Um, got a few more things I want to touch on before I let you go. I'm curious, um, you know, performing and making music for as long as you have. Do you have certain songs that you especially like to play live? And on the flip side, are there certain songs of yours that you're just kind of tired of playing live for whatever reason?
Um, no, I just don't play the ones that I'm tired of. People ask for them. I'm
Fair
like,
enough.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then I can conveniently sort of forget them. I've blocked a couple of them out.
Are
Um,
there any of those that like the fans that are fan favorites that you're just like, because I see a lot of artists that's the case, and like it may be a fan favorite, but they're just like they're tired of it playing it so often, you know?
Yeah, so people ask for like Miss Ferguson or something like that, or one of those really, and sometimes I'll pull it out, but then sometimes I'll try it, occasionally try it and be like, oh yeah, I've actually literally forgotten this, so which is great. I'm like, and now I really have. I'm not lying to you when I say I've forgotten it.
There you go.
But I've got so many, and I my obscurity has protected me from that, because people, it's not like I've had hits, it's whatever. I have songs that people they probably expect to hear like Pretty's Waitress or Tall Green Grass, if they come to a show, something that's, people are very familiar with. Um, but after this long and so many songs that and so many songs that aren't on anything, I write these songs and they don't always end up on records, but people that come to shows, they know these songs. And so, there's, I'll do, I never plan a set list or any of that. So I've never done that in my life. I've
You
never,
never plan a set list. Wow.
Mm-mm. Well, now when I have a band, I'll
Yeah.
sort of because in case I got to make
Sure.
changes or something.
Sure.
But yeah, no, me solo, fuck no. I never plan anything, and I'll just go out and play whatever's on my mind for about half the set, and then when it's my own show, when I'm going out as an opener or whatever, I'll again I don't make a set list, but I know what works in general. I know, or if I have a song that won't work as an opener hype man slot, I'll just play it like I play it different. I change the songs up all the time just to keep myself interested, and I can even all the time, like I'll take any of my rockers and turn them into ballads, or put things in 3/4, or sometimes I like it's so dumb. Sometimes I can put a song out of my range, out of my vocal range, where I know that some of the notes are too high, and then I'll just go for it. I'll back off the mic and just try to hit notes that are out of my range that I physically know I can't get to, just to see how bad it is when I try to hit a note I can't get to. I don't know. I kind of cattle prod myself back into uh, being on edge, um, risking something. If I don't, if there isn't something, I like to go without a net because it keeps me.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah.
I've played these songs. I've fucking heard these songs. And it's like people sometimes they like to hear that, and it's like sometimes people like to sing along, which is a thing that it doesn't happen because I usually buck people off because I'm always changing tempos and stuff like that. But if it's a crowd and they're really into that, I'll straighten a few of them out. I'll play one tempo, one volume, so they can sing along. If they want to. For the most part, my stuff's not very conducive to that.
You've definitely
But that's
got me
great.
a few times that I've, over the years when I've seen you live, I'm ready to sing something and you switch it up on me, and I was like, ah, damn
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
I
yeah.
thought I had it.
And I'm just, and it's not even. Sometimes it's not even intentional. It's just sort of what I do. I, I had this constant derailing of the mystique. I'm like, this is happening in real time, and humans doing this up here. It's not like, I like to. Yeah, I don't know. I like to follow the spirit in my atheistic way.
I think that's, I mean, it's one of the things I love about your live show, and it's something that I was actually going to want to ask you about, and you just brought it up on your own, is just the fact that you do that. Every time I've seen you live, I think I've seen, a different, style to different songs, and you mix it up and play them in a different tempo, or like you said, turn it into a ballad. I think it makes for a really unique experience, and you're getting something that I was like, all right, well, I've got the record, but like I'm getting something and I'm here in the moment and I'm experiencing this and we're all experiencing this together. And it's kind of like, it's kind of a one of one. because it
But
might be different the next time. You know what I mean?
yeah, there's no way. Yeah, I court that. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Um, Lorca or whatever poet calls it duende. It's instead of the Western muse that we have, where the muse descends and gives us the gift. The Argentinian or Spanish idea about it is Jacob wrestling the angel at the well, and he talks about it's like you have to wrestle this moment, and he's like, and then it's gone. He's like that. It only happens in temporal art, where time is an aspect. So it only happens in dance and music. Paintings leave a trace. Paintings leave a record. Um, Music's is gone as soon as it happens, and there's something as close to magic as I can find in the world with when I can feel a room and I can sort of read the room and where when there's a connection. That's all any of this shit is connecting, because nobody ever fucking knows what anybody else thinks or feels. There's no fucking way to know.
Yeah.
But
Right.
if you can find some sort of any sort of um, shadow of that or any little echo of that sort of connection, but especially when it's happening with a room, and sometimes that it can slip into something really that's sustaining for me. um, I want it to mean stuff for other people, but also that shit will hold me. If I have one of those shows, it'll hold me for a tour, just one of those. So I'm always nightly trying to get that, trying to chase it, even if I've got
Yeah.
to derail the fucking set to do it. If I got to, I say, but I also come from a very not artist driven, background. I come from a place where you're just like fucking do your job. You're an entertainer. You're not here for yourself. It's like fucking entertain. So I have that sort of ethic too. So where I if it crosses over into self indulgent, or if I think it's starting to cross, I don't approach that, because I've seen people I can see that they're going for this thing. They're trying to get that connection or whatever, but I've seen people take really self-indulgent routes to get there, and like that's where I draw the line. It's like I am there by the grace of the people that fucking purchase the tickets and listen to the music. It's like I'm not up there just for myself, and so it's like there's a line that can be crossed. That's
Yeah,
how I
for
try to stay
sure.
away from that.
Absolutely. That's very respectable.
I don't know. It's just math, man. It's just like,
Just math.
yeah, I gotta have asses in seats, man. If you waste their time or you disrespect them, what's the point,
Yeah,
Because
for sure, man.
I have some people waste my time a lot. Whew. I put it on a record. I'm like, oh, I just lost those. I lost that 40 minutes. Never get that back.
Too funny. We won't name names, but
I don't know
but
if I can remember them anyway. Just
yeah,
block
right.
that out.
That's so funny. I got one more question for you before I let you go, and I'm gonna get heavy on you for a second.
Okay.
Save the best for last. So besides music, what inspires you in your life?
My kids,
Yeah,
that's just it's the whole thing. It's
yeah,
the all the cliches or whatever. You know, it's just a bunch of Hallmark bullshit, but some of it really rings true. But it's instant. The thing that I talk about, the thing I was talking about earlier about looking around and seeing the specific Motel 6 you're in. How you've never actually seen the street you live on like it is right at this fucking moment. Even though you know what it is, you sort of like how you have to, because we have to. You have to fucking put blinders on to function, even in a chill like country setting, whatever. Not just living in Brooklyn, where you literally have to put blinders on to go get a carton of milk, or you're gonna fucking have sensory overload.
yeah.
But even living on cut, you put these blinders on just to survive and to live and to, um, and then when you see how a kid looks at things, and you get to look with them like through their eyes, um, I don't know, I think I think back sometimes like my kid, he was like 2 or whatever, and we were sitting on the back, and we were just watching the wind come through the branches or whatever, and he's like, "You think it's gonna come?" Yours is gonna come. We were just waiting or whatever, and his mom come out and she's like, "What are y'all doing?" He's like, "Oh, we're just waiting on the wind." And he's just sitting there and he's just like, and I was just like watch him like just get tickled pink, just watching this shit. It's like okay, and he's 9 now, but and so like just yesterday I was showing him, I'm showing him piano or whatever, and we gotta do it up here. You can see,
Yeah.
and I've shown him these chords that are basically claw chords. You just here's your C F G. I'm like, if you don't want to bounce around, you can do this, where you just do these inversions. And I was going to show him Let It Be. And I was like, we're to the wax on, wax off. We're through that, where I've shown him this, I've shown him how to do these inversions, but then we applied it to a song. And he's like, and then, but I was about to show him, and he goes, "Words of wisdom," and he goes, "Oh, I can just take this shape." And I was just like, almost about to weep. I was just like, "Yeah, that's how music works." And like he just, because he's got a good ear or whatever. But I'm just that he's like, "Oh, this," and just to sort of see his pride that he could hear it, figure it out, and stuff like that, and like see the stuff click with him. It's just like, because I'm like, because that's what I love about music, and just to see it, through somebody else's eyes is, yeah, that's it's worth every amount of bullshit that parenthood brings with it.
That's special, man. That's
I don't know. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
It's some Hallmark sounding bullshit, but it's true, man. It's good. It's good time.
Maybe there's a reason Hallmark is popular, I guess, because there's truth in that, right?
Yeah, I always joke about how I should write like realistic kids books and like Hallmark stuff, like there's a pot of shit at the end of the painbow kind of stuff, Just,
the painbow.
I'm preparing you for this life. Qualified kid hope.
Yeah. Just get them ready. Get them ready for what's out there in the real world, right?
Yeah, keep your eyes on the sky, but don't let a bird shit in your eye while you're doing it. It's
words of wisdom, and I think that's a perfect spot to end this. Look at this guy. Don't let a bird shit in your eye. There you go. Listen, brother. I've had an absolute blast chatting with you here today. This was so much fun. Thank you.
I appreciate you, and thanks again for including me in that book. That was fun.
Yeah, man. Like I appreciate you, being into it and stuff. So and like sharing it on your socials.
That sometimes when they come over, I was like, check this shit out.
Right on, dude.
And I appreciate you, man.
I appreciate you. Everybody, go if you don't have When I Go I Ghost, go get it. It's an amazing album. Whatever your preferred format is, vinyl, CD.
A cassette. You're dropping it on cassette.
You got it on cassette coming? Oh, man.
Yeah, the pre-order right now is up, and it's deluxe because we're about to. There are 3 tracks that we didn't have on the record because they wouldn't fit on vinyl. And normally I would just put those out immediately. I was like, everybody's doing the deluxe edition to give the fool the algorithm, to give the life cycle a little bit more. Because as soon as something's out for 2 weeks, nobody reviews it or anything.
It's the Taylor Swift model, is what I call it. Right?
Yeah, the deluxe. But I was like, okay, well, I'm like, for the deluxe, can we put it on a cassette? Put it on the opposite of deluxe? And they're like, oh yeah, we can have like a long cassette. So that's it'll be out wherever else, digital, those extra songs. But
I got to get a way to play cassettes again because I want that. I'm gonna have to get one of those.
Snodgrass and I once did a split on vinyl and cassette, and the cassette sold out first because they just, they have a digital download in there. They're going to be available digital anyway. People just like the novelty of it. And me, I'm just like, do you know how many boxes of vinyl I can take on the plane? 2. That's my weight limit. I'm just like, do you know how many fucking cassettes I can put in a case and take on the road on a plane? I'm like, yeah, let's do cassettes.
There you go, man. Well, everybody look out for that cassette coming out and all the platforms. And
we'll get you to the 8 tracks next year. We'll see.
There you go. I like it. Yeah. Maybe we can get this. We can get this recording here on Laserdisc. Maybe while we're at it. Yeah.
2 solo cups and some fucking vinyl. Some dental floss.
All right, brother.
Cheers.
Thanks again, Cory. I appreciate you so much. Thank you, everybody, for watching. This has been a lot of fun. I'm your host, Jesse Hubbard. This is Sound Out. Until next time, friends.